Hey, everybody. Welcome to Meddkit's Provider Spotlight, where we are interviewing the really most amazing private practices from all over the United States. It's really fun. We learn something new every single time. Everyone has a new perspective. And today, I want to welcome our very special guest, Dr. Bruce Rippee, who's the owner of Bridge Integrative Medicine in Kansas City, Missouri. And Dr. Bruce is an international best-selling author, podcaster, blogger, and business strategist. So welcome, Dr. Bruce. Thanks so much for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love having like the Oprah Ellen moment. Like, yeah, so excited you're here. It's always good to, meet new people and, see what you're all about, see how you're helping people. And I know we have a lot to dive in today, so we'll kind of get into it. Would love for you to tell everyone, what's your story? What had inspired you to open up your practice?
My origin story.
I want the whole origin story. Yeah, yeah,
Well, I was bitten by a radioactive spider when I was on a field trip. But no, it honestly, if you want to know the truth, and it's silly, it really is. It was Star Trek that made me want to be a doctor. That's how old I am. I guess I dated myself. But everybody wanted to be Spock, or they wanted to be James Kirk, or they want to be
yeah.
whatever. I thought Bones McCoy could cure a rainy day, and I just loved him for that. So, I mean, he could, right? I mean, he could, if you wanted Kirk to look like a Klingon or a Romulan, he could just make it happen, right? He would run the diagnostic thing over somebody and say, "Well, you've got a brain hemorrhage, and we're going to have to fix that. Give me 30 seconds," right? So I loved it. I loved him, and that's really kind of what started me down that route. And then as an athlete, I started realizing there's a real thing with this because I was playing football and a wonderful human being. I just love the person. He's one of our heroes. I won't say his name because I don't want him to get too much fan mail or whatever it was, but he went on to become a Navy SEAL. And I was playing football and I hit him head to head. He's 2 years older than I. So obviously I'm a freshman, he's a junior. And they say, "Oh, you got your bell rung." Well, the next day I couldn't move my neck. And I go see Robert Seavey, who's in Willard, Missouri. That's where we were living in Springfield, but my mom took me there. And he gets a hold of my neck and he says, "Oh, wow, well, this is really stuck. You've got some muscles that are weird. Let me see if I can help you." And he cranks my neck. And I thought at that point in time, it hurt. And I'm thinking, what is this guy? I mean, what'd my mom take me to, right? So, and then I got home. I noticed that I was better. He had me not ice it. He said, "Don't ice it. You don't want to ice this right now. Let this just happen." And the next morning I got up and I could turn my head. I mean, I literally couldn't the day before, but I could turn my head and I didn't have the headache that came with it. Also, I thought, wait a second, this guy, maybe he knew something, right? So I got to honor him, by the way, as I have lectured all around the United States. And he was in the audience one time, and I found out that he was in the audience. We've got 250 chiropractors there, and I made him stand up, and I told him the story when I got done with school, and I have a degree in English writing. I got done with school, and I'm looking at, okay, what prerequisites do I need to go into medical school? Do I do surgeon? Do I do chiropractor? I was going to go medicine somewhere.
Yeah.
And Rachel, he was in the audience, and I got to have him stand up and say, "This guy took me out to lunch and gave me a burrito, bought me a burrito, right? In Willard, which is a small opening in the widening in the road, right? This is not a large town." But just kind of went around, and everybody, "Hi, Dr. Bob. Hi, Dr. Bob. Hi, Dr. CV. Hi, all the way along. And it was such a cool thing. He was part of the community. I mean, he was without a doubt well known, well loved. And I basically went, "Okay, I will find a way to be that." And so I lit finally in northern Kansas City, and I've been here as part of the community for 30 something years.
That is amazing. I love the people that have taken their life circumstances and say, yes, I had went through this, but I want to do this for other people now. And to have such a strong mentor like that and someone that had clearly left a mark on you in a really positive way and say, yeah, I want to be that guy. I think that is such a driving force to what you're doing now and how you best help people because you know your why, right?
Yeah, I mean, it is how you build one. It's how
Yeah.
you build a why. But and it happens. It happens to me. I got to be Very popular, very blessed. It's a huge practice. We're well known, we're well loved. And so it's fun to go to the store and have six people stop you. You know, you're over at Hy-Vee and six people stop you and say, "Oh yeah, hey, how are you doing? What's going on with your thing?" And and to be honest, you're searching your memory for their name. You know them, but you're trying to figure out, okay, wait a second. Normally I have your chart in front of me, but you love all of them. And it's really cool to have that, to know that you've done well. All of the awards, all of the stuff that a doctor can win, and all those kinds of things. Don't get me wrong; they're great. I feel very blessed. But that's the big one, right? The one where you walk into church and you get 15 hugs, right? So it's just like, okay, I'm doing something right. So that's what I wanted, to be honest. Once I saw that, how Bob Seavey had built his
Yep.
practice career, actually caring for his patients. It's not just pop, crack, goodbye. It was really well done. And he was this backbone of a community. I felt like that's really what I wanted out of it. And it's been joyful to be that.
I love that. Yeah, I think having some really close ties to community is the best part. So I love
Agreed.
that that's what you guys are doing. And kind of, jumping on the clinical side of things, what do you find that most common areas that people are struggling with? What are people coming into your practice, and what do you generally find is like the major culprits?
Today,
Yeah.
sedentary world has got to be number one. Metabolic syndrome is number two. Our food's poisonous. It is. We've known that. For everybody knows that, right? We all know what glyphosate is now, or Roundup. So we're all aware that we're being poisoned slowly somehow. We just don't know how to get out of it. And so the way we do our work is we do how you sleep. That's very important. How you think, that's also very important. How you eat and how you move. And the chiropractic side, we always say, well, which one do we want to start with? What bite of the apple do you want to take first? And if somebody's coming in all honesty, they're dealing with dreadful pain, we're gonna deal with the pain. Let's
Yeah.
solve that first, please, right? Let's fix that. But then if it's sleep, let's go to sleep. Let's move over to that. Let's give you some tricks, some tips, some techniques, some tools. I always call it my 4 T's. And is there a cheat code for it? We know what you want. You want to have a good night's sleep. We want you to experience that happening. Can we shorten the distance between what you want and the experience of that happening? Right. So that's what we try to do. And we have all of this stuff that we've paid very close attention. Fortunately, all of the doctors that work there, they love to do research. They're constantly on it. We've been published in magazines. We've had all that. So because of that, we're constantly looking at the next step. And Rachel, you bring up a really important thing there. What's the most important? You're right. You need to lead with that. What's the biggest problem that everybody's dealing with? But I'll be honest, it's tailor made to that person depending upon symptoms, right? You may come in with no symptoms at all in your head. You've got a low back that's really stiff because you're at a computer doing this all day, right? And okay, well, let's address the low back. But by the way, we're going to have to, at some point in time, look at the rest of the body and figure out, is there something we can do to optimize the human condition?
Yep, 100%. And you snuck something in there that not a lot of people bring up, because when people might think chiropractor, something like that, they're thinking back, they're thinking neck or shoulder, knee, whatever it might be. But you said sleep, which I
Oh
think
yeah.
is fascinating, because it's not what people would typically think about. And that is, yeah, you could not be sleeping for a multitude of reasons why, and issues. And so I love also the research component that you brought in, because you're really looking at the root cause. It seems like you guys are really trying to get into the root cause of what is causing some of these symptoms from people, right?
Yeah, and then you try to nudge them in the right direction, but you have to nudge, right? If somebody it's one of those things we always used to say, you put your hands together and you say, okay, well, I love chocolate, right? And then you say, yeah, but I can't eat chocolate because I know chocolate's bad, but I love chocolate, but I can't eat chocolate because I know chocolate's bad. You're never going to be able to solve, right, that particular one. So you start looking at something else. And let's say, obviously, you're a very healthy lady. If you are one of my athletes, and I know that you do movement very, very well, but you don't sleep well. Well, let's go after how you're thinking and how you're eating. Moving is already taken care of by you. That's so important, right? but how are you thinking and how are you eating? When are you doing those things? What's going on, right? So you address those, and then what happens is sleep gets better because you've addressed the other three pillars. And we always say there's four pillars. There's probably 90, but we decided to pick on these four. But we say it's how you what stems from your health, or how what your health stems, STEM, sleep, think, eat, move. And that's what wellness doctors. So you asked me one time before we talked earlier, where you know what do I see the most of, right? And so I would say probably what drives people into the office is pain. I mean, that's like, okay, that's the first thing. But I would say if you were to ask me, why do people stay with you? Because a chiropractor should be someone that does life with you. They shouldn't be someone, well, yeah, I did that thing again and I'm going to have to write. Okay. I mean, okay, but it works way better if they're doing life with you, because 20 years from now, they're going to know you and they're going to know how you actually work. And your body's not supposed to be doing what it's doing right now. They're going to make those changes with you. And so really what we always say is that we do life with you. We started to become successful. This may sound silly, but we started to become really successful when we said, this is what I can do for you. Now you need to tell me what you're going to do for you.
Ah, yeah, you know what? That is like light bulb, crashing and smashing moment because yeah, you go to a physician, go to a chiropractor, you're like, I need your help, right? I know what you can do for me, but what am I willing or can do for myself as well after the fact? And so I think that point gets missed a little bit. I'm really glad that you brought that up, but and kind of moving into this next question, and you kind of give me, over these past few questions that I asked you, little drips of it and teasers, but what would you say is, your prime approach? Like, how is it different than other people that are out there? Because you guys are different, and the
Yeah,
way that you
thank
think
you.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, the way that you think, and even just those things that we were talking about here are different. So, but is there anything else that you could tell us of, some differentiators?
So one of the things that we love all of the people that are trying to help people heal and grow.
Yeah,
So we have unbelievably good relationships with orthopedists, with medical doctors, your GPs, your OBGYNs, your functional medicine. We have unbelievable conversations with them on a daily basis with patients. We become part of the healthcare, not you can only come to me because I'm going to cure. That's ridiculous. That's not how it works. And so I would say that our relationships with the medical community, my son is a medical doctor. He's literally an ER surgeon in Joplin. But so we're used to it, right? I mean, we absolutely love the medical side. And so we work directly with them and we will send a patient directly back to them. So when we get a referral, even if the patient is better, we always send them back to the medical doctor and say, please have them look this over, get their input as well. Because remember, we really are all in this together. And the medical side loved that. And of course, we got to teach at UMKC School of Medicine, which was wonderful. Nora Kiasan and Dr. Boyles there were just absolutely wonderful with us. So that was an amazing experience to be able to do that. So we do also tie in community. We're at, some of the schools. We go teach. We help these kids. We get them standing up and moving in class. We make them do the big smiles and then wave the arms around and do these things, which the teachers absolutely loved because they found out that they had much less misbehaving children, much fewer misbehaving children when we would go in and do that. So we spend a lot of our time outside of the clinic, even doing, there's enough doctors there where you spend a time out there just getting into the community and becoming part of it. And we also give our patients a way to connect with the community, which is, we will have things going on. We'll let them know, hey, this is the time where we do Toys for Tots. The Marines are going to show up if you feel like you want to be part of that. And our patients are incredible. North Kansas City is a great community, and they will come together with, if you said they're waiting for you to go first. But if you go first, they will show up and the VA will get $2,000 worth of canned goods. I mean, our patients are amazing, but they become part of, you become part of their family. And honestly, I would say the best way to describe it, we do life with our patients. We're not there to just pop and crack. If that's what someone wants,
Yep.
we'll do that. But the whole time we're dripping into them, if there's some other way I can help improve your life, or if you're willing to help give back, if you're feeling awesome to some of these kids that we're trying to feed and make sure they have Christmas presents, we would love for you to be part of that. And once you give someone that opportunity, they jump back into it. So it's truly health. I mean, it's actually real health. It's not, hey, I have this problem. We're great at that. Give us the hard problems. Come on. Right. I mean, we're great at that. We have all the toys too. And I'm gonna brag about Dr. Wiley for just a minute. I absolutely love him. He's my partner in that. We've been business partners forever. Our wives are friends. I mean, it's just it's like a big deal, right? So, but the two of us, we have all the toys. So if we bring in the medical doctor because we've got a bunch of things that need to be done medically, we'll bring a medical doctor to our clinic. And they're like, yep, we'll show up. We'll be there all day Wednesday. Let me know, right? And we've got all of the toys. So we've got the diagnostic ultrasounds and the high frequency, X-rays, the digital X-ray. We've got STEM pod, which is another. I mean, so we have all of that. But the technology is that's just a healthy clinic that has all the toys, right? We've got all the things that can do diagnostics incredibly well and therapies incredibly well. Okay. But in all honesty, it's the people that come see us. They make us better every day. They challenge us every day. Hey, I've got a curveball for you. I slipped down a flight of stairs. I mean, there's always going to be something like that, Rachel. And I honestly believe that it's what makes us different is that we reach for community first. It really is the community that we care about the most. And so when someone says, hey, doc, I've got this thing going on at my son's softball game or my son's whatever it is, could you come out and do stretches for them? One of the times before, or, football, right? Come out and do stretches. Of course, even if I'm busy, I'm going to find time to go do that. I mean, that's
Awesome.
what I want. That's why I want to be part of that. And Kansas City has fed us way too well. We've been so blessed. And so we're like sitting on leaning forward on our toes, trying to figure out how can we do more.
No, I love that. The whole time that you were sitting here and explaining that, the big banner across my forehead was reading community.
Oh
Everything
yeah.
is community. Community
Oh
from
yeah.
the clinical sense of, you living your life with your patients, right? So we talked about that. Talked about, you giving back, so you really being in the community, seeing the needs of the community and helping out there. But then also the medical community and also the medical community with
Yep.
that patient. So we could have a whole other podcast about this, Dr.
Huh.
Bruce. But like, how many times the ball has been dropped from provider to provider
Oh
because
yes. Yeah.
there's obviously a lot of people are seeing different physicians, but there is either a whisper down the lane thing happening or not everyone is talking well with one another. And so it's so great that you're inviting that it's not just, a competition, but it's like, let's get this person better. I want you to take a look at this. I want you to take a look at this. This is what we're seeing. And I think that communication is really important. And I love that you guys are doing that. So I would say that's the 3 C's of community right there.
Yeah, well, it honestly is. And you want to know, here's a little secret. And I get the opportunity as a strategist. You mentioned that earlier. As a business strategist, I build businesses for people. They pay me to come in and figure out what's not going well and how to make them better so that they can do more. Community, as you know, is what I lead with. Why
Yep.
don't you have a big community? Do you have a newsletter going out telling you where you're going to be out in the community doing stretches at a football game or a basketball game or doing something? Where are you going to be? It's like, the person that just goes to the clinic, does clinic, and goes home is not ever going to be as popular as
Yep.
the person that says, "Of course, I'll do that with you. When can I be there? Hey, by the way, I have some awesome educators. I love my educators, right? And they teach fifth grade or whatever. And I say, do you ever have guest speakers come in? Oh, you'll do that? They're like totally surprised. Of course, I'll do that. Absolutely. I'd love to come out, talk with them, and then ask them questions. You learn so much, right? Just unfiltered. I thought you guys, my favorite at one point in time, you talked about misconceptions, and I know you sent me something that talked about a misconception. So let
Oh
me let
yeah,
me
we're
address
getting
that.
there.
Yeah, I want to address that because this is my favorite story. So we're teaching at UMKC School of Medicine, meaning we have an elective. people can take this elective and come spend an entire, I think it was actually 3 months with us, right?
Yep.
And they come in every Tuesday and Thursday and they spend the afternoon and they do that for the entire semester. So they have to write a paper at the end. And one of the docs that comes in, these are all medical doctors, medical students, right? They're in their fifth and sixth year, sometime once in a while fourth, but usually they're in their last 2 years. And so they have to come in and do an elective, and the elective happened to be chiropractic. What's a chiropractor anyway? At least let's figure it out, right? So they're all coming to us. And it was the most popular elective at UMKC School of Medicine by far. It was the most popular. In fact, there was a waiting list and they would come in. So one of these ladies came out and I loved her description. She said, if I had gone by what I thought I knew about chiropractors, you understand she's graduating medical school, right? What I thought I knew about chiropractors, I would have come into a clinic where they put a raw potato on your chest, handed you crystals, ground up chicken bones, and threw them in the air. I thought that was the best description ever. She goes, you guys actually do exams. You know what you're touching. You know how it's supposed to move. You know the origin and insertion of every muscle, which we don't even know that. Surgeons do. I mean, they're brilliant, right? But your general practitioner shouldn't have to know that. That's not what they're there for, right? And they have training in other areas, in other words. But you know the neurology that goes there. You know the action that's supposed to happen. You know all the stuff. And so you're literally taking people through all these goofy tests, and then you know what's wrong. Then you x-ray it. Then you go back through the stretches and flexibility drills that you go through. Then you solve the situation. Of course, they're there enough. The kids were there, they're kids to me, right? But the students are there enough, these doctors, to watch someone go from, wow, I feel terrible, to, oh, that was fantastic. My headache's gone, I'm all better. And their eyes get great big and they're like, I can't do that at my clinic. I mean, I can't do that. I say, well, that's not your job. But your job might be to say, listen, I can give you something for this for the next couple of days, but you need to get in and see a chiropractor and then come back and see me. Because the real problem always has been the stealing of a patient or something, or at least the feeling of that. Oh, now they've gone chiropractic side, so they never come back. That's ridiculous. I mean, obviously medicine is great when you need it. So anyway, but I would say that was really the best misconception ever, with that I was going to put a raw potato, put some crystals and grind it. I don't know what she came up with, but that was what she actually wrote in her exit interview, the paper that she had to write, that's what she thought I was going to do.
That's pretty hysterical. I always find, and now that we're living in this world where we have ChatGPT, we have Google,
Oh
whatever,
yeah.
and it can be great at times, but then you start typing in your symptoms and then it says you have cancer, right? You kind of went down the rabbit hole too much, right? And so that being said, and I love that you kind of like already started this, about misconceptions, but it's true. We have great resources out on the internet, but they can be harmful. Is there something that else besides, the potato situation that you can debunk for us that you
Yeah.
get commonly?
Yeah, things don't go out of place. You hear it all the time. Like, that was an easy way to explain what you were trying to do with the patient. And I think it was actually a disservice. They talk about, oh, that went out of place. Not unless you have an awesome injury, and awesome meaning, awful, right? Injury. That's not really how things work. What you're really doing as a chiropractor is you're stimulating a dorsal root ganglia. That's a neurological thing. It goes to the spinal thalamic tract. Your brain makes a decision on it. The HPA axis says, calm down, calm down, calm down, calm down. Your endogenous endorphins take over, and all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, that actually feels better. The real thing that everybody knows or should know is that if you set one thing on top of the other, and I'm going to cover my face up here, right? We're never supposed to do, but set one thing on top of the other, on top of the other, and you realize that the middle one of those things isn't doing all of its job, you know that the one above and below has to do that job. And it will tire them. They'll change, the bones can change, and over time it can actually cause you a lot of problems that you didn't need to cause, right? So by just making sure that every bone does its job, every joint is moving appropriately, you save yourself a lot of grief downrange, which is why the patients I've had for 30 years that I absolutely adore, 35, that I absolutely adore, they say, how do you feel? And they say, great. I say, is anything wrong? No. And then someone would ask them sometimes, you have a spouse or somebody that doesn't know about doing life with your patients, right? They would say something like, well, why do you keep going back? And they say, because there's not been anything wrong for 30 years. Let's let's unpack that, please. Understand there's never, I came into to him and there was something wrong. It's never been wrong again for 3 decades. So I think he's doing something right. Well, that isn't how the brain works generally, right? Because aren't you in, I would say the big misconception is you have to have something horribly wrong
Hmm.
before you would go in and have somebody go through your system. Hey, let's see what's going on. I just met a guy yesterday who has a home service. I can't remember what it's called, right? But he used to be one of those guys that inspected the homes before you bought it, right? Goes
Yes,
through the
yes.
whole, pokes the wall and, it's HVAC and all this stuff. His company actually does prophylaxis for your home. He literally shows up and looks at everything, checks all of your plumbing, all of your electrical, all of your, HVAC, all of your stuff. It's not a huge charge, but he goes through and he does, hey, your filters need to be changed. You're gonna have to change the filter above your stove, right? Right. He does all of that stuff. And I thought, wow, that's kind of what I do. I mean, pretty that's actually a really good idea, isn't it? I mean, you're going to live there for a long time. It's kind of nice to know that, by the way, this thing's dripping behind the sink, right?
Yeah, that is really smart. I really like that. I was like, where's Dr. Bruce taking this one? And I'm like, there it is. I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. I love that. And so to kind of wrap everything up in a really awesome ribbon today, I think it's really helpful for people to know, there's a lot of things we can be doing today and we don't know. What things are, tips that you might give to clients for homework, things that they should be doing at home, but also preventative stuff. There's a lot of us that maybe don't know or saying, "Oh, this is a good wake up call. I should start doing this today to prevent XYZ." But maybe thinking about those larger problems, most popular problems that you see coming in the office, what do you think some good tips and tricks for folks at home who are listening that they can go and do today?
Yeah, that's actually awesome that you would ask that because Rachel, that is the most important thing. Is there just something I can do for me? And I would love it if people would just start taking 10,000 IUs of vitamin D3 every day. I mean,
Yeah.
just start with that. You're going to be so much better if you get the flu. If you get the flu, you're going to be so much better. You're going to be so much. It's so much easier, and you're going to protect yourself, right? So I really like that. You can say that. Well, wait a minute. Aren't you supposed to take 2,000? Are you supposed to take whatever? We don't get the vitamin D we used to get. We're not outside enough. Those of us that live, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. So there's 5 months out of the year where the sunshine's not that strong. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to be outside all day in December with a shirt off, right? Trying to get some vitamin D. So you got to take vitamin D. I mean, it's just one of those things. And I would say also, if anyone would take advice from me, and we certainly have a lot of these, but if anyone would take advice from me, when your hands do this all day at a computer, right? You always want to take 3 fingers at a time to stretch them. And so you would take, for example, let's do it this way. These three, can I do it in front of my camera? You
Yep.
would take these three and you would stretch those three where I'm leaving off the thumb and the forefinger, but I'm always stretching this. A lot of times I'll see people stretch the whole hand. You don't want to stretch your whole hand. You really don't. You want to do 3 fingers at a time because you'll be able to do better and stretch it more. Then take your thumb, your index finger, and leave these 2 fingers alone and stretch that. Do the same thing on the back side. Push your hand this way to stretch that wrist. Push your hand 3 fingers, leave the thumb and forefinger, and press this way gently, gently, gently. But you want to do that and you want to stretch that. If people will just do that often, every single day, think I'm only going to use 3 fingers. I'm going to do 3 fingers going backwards, 3 fingers going forwards, right? If they'll do that every day, they will save themselves a lot of carpal tunnel grief because a whole lot of that has to do with swelling that happens inside of a space where a nerve is supposed to have more room than it would have if you swelled, right? So that's a great way to just open things up. And you always do it gently. If you're feeling a 3, as far as a pain goes, you're fine. If you're feeling a 4, stop, just stop. If it starts, wow, that's really annoying, don't do it. Don't do it that hard, right? Very gentle. But if you do it every day, you'll find that, wow, I'm actually starting to correct some things that the sedentary lifestyle, obviously, that's the computer thing, that carpal tunnel thing. I would love it if they would do that. And then I have one last one for you, and it's called yes, no, and I don't know. And literally, it's the motions of yes, right? It's the motions of no, and this is my I don't know, you know, right? But those are movements that we'll stop doing if we are at a computer all day long. We simply don't do those. So if someone will stop and do that to where they feel the stretch, right? And they feel just a little bit of a stretch in the no, and they feel a little bit of a stretch, just a little bit. You don't want to do this crazy. The reason why I love people to do this is because if you're doing life with a chiropractor, right? You're doing life with someone that loves you and wants to take care of you for a long period of time, you're also going to know that there's something wrong because you're going to be able to do the yes, it's fine. You're going to do the no, it's fine. You're trying to do I don't know. It's like, oh man, that's when you call me because now it's little. I'm going to be able to take care of it right away. It's going to be very simple. But if you wait, and if you're not doing that on a regular basis, how would you know? Nobody does that. Nobody just sits there and goes, you know what I want to do is I want to stretch my.
Yeah, no, it. You know, one, I have to say, congratulations. You're the first person to ever address carpal tunnel here. So,
Oh,
but it's such a
good.
huge, but it's such a huge issue,
We
and
fix it
we're
every
all
day.
we're
Yep.
all here on our
Yep.
computers. We're all here on our phones doing this, and it's a huge issue, and none of us. I would maybe a small percentage, but I would say the large majority of people are probably not paying attention to that, are probably not doing the I don't know, and maybe they're not doing that well. And so I think it's a great way to kind of test yourself, but
Yep.
also to give yourself some preventative measures for
It's
things
curative. Yeah. Yeah.
down the future.
Yeah.
I love it. I think this is awesome. Dr.
Good.
Bruce, this has been phenomenal, amazing. And what I would love if you could do for us before we leave today is just tell folks how they might be able to reach out to you if, they have questions or are curious about, visiting your practice. Anything would be amazing that you could tell us on how to find
Yep.
you.
Thank you. Yeah, Bridge Integrative Medicine. You can look that up at Kansas City, Missouri. It's easy to find. It's 816-454-5433. We did it this way on purpose. I don't know if it works anymore. It used to, right? Because now nobody knows numbers, right? You call Rachel and it's going to call you, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's not that way anymore. But it used to be where that was cool. So it's the 816 because it's north of the river. That's the area code. But then it's 45 for life. That's actually what it spells out. 45 for life, because I think we hit our stride. If we're living well, we hit our stride about 45 years old, right? You no longer have to try quite as hard to impress everybody. You're starting to make money. You're starting to have that, right? That world. I think that's when we hit a really good stride. So I said, well, wait a minute, let's make 45 for life. We want to be 45 for life, right? So I wrote it out and I said, okay, that's 454-5433. But I thought 45 for life. It did work by 30 something years ago when I bought the practice. It really did, Rachel. That people are like, oh yeah, that's easy to remember. Yeah, I just remember it like that, 45 for life. But what happened, the craziest thing happened later is that now nobody does that. Chiropractor near me, right? They're talking into their phone and it's really hard to find that. So Bridge, that's the name of the company, right? Bridge Integrative Medicine. If you say Bridge and chiropractic, you're going to find us. But that's what you want to do. And the great news is that we are, I think, I'm so proud of what we've done, but we're always trying to do something more. And it's been awesome when somebody says, hey, can you lecture here? Can you do there? I've had the honor of doing that all around. That's what I wrote. That's why I wrote the best-selling books. I wrote a chapter in all those books was because somebody asked. And so if there's something we can do, we love this community of Kansas City. It's a big deal for us anyway.
That's awesome. I so appreciate you coming on. We debunked a lot. We learned a lot. We have we have things, we have homework that we all need to do.
Well,
So
you ask good questions, so
thank
that's
you.
good.
Well, we owe you a great debt. We appreciate it. And we hope to have you on again, Dr. Bruce. This was
Sure,
awesome.
sure.
Thanks so much.